Hello.
Hi, everyone.
I just said, I feel so short.
Perfect height.
I feel like everyone at the back disagrees with you, but okay. This is so exciting. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with the four of us. Hi, Tilly. Hi, Tegan. I get to be in front of the computer. I'm in charge of the show, so don't forget to tell me all about how I didn't do a good job in the comments.
Don't say that.
Hi everyone, I'm Kasoko Jackson. I am the moderator of this wonderful event. And so we have a lot to talk about. I'm sure all of you are going to have many, many questions. So we are going to get started with some quick introductions. Like I said, I'm Kasoko Jackson. I am the author of The Forced Demands It's Due, which is a YA horror book that hit the USA Today bestseller list last year. And we can just go quickly down the line.
I'm Tegan. I'm half of Sarah's band, Tegan and Sara. I'm just really happy to be invited. Thank you. I'm Sara. I'm in negotiations to have a bigger split in the band Tegan and Sara.
How big a split is the question?
I'd be fine with like 51-49.
Hard bargain.
It's just small, just a small change.
I'm Tilly. I'm a cartoonist and somehow managed to do 2 graphic novels with Tegan and Sara.
Amazing graphic novels. Who here has read Junior High already? Oh.
I mean, Crush.
Yeah.
A+ for all of you.
Who has read Crush so far? Okay, all right, so we have some good stuff.
It's fine. My wife only read it last weekend, and I watched her.
Wait, she didn't read an arc early?
You know what? With junior high, she followed along a lot more, and I would like send her the script periodically, but once she saw the finished product of junior high, like held the book in her hands, she's very obsessed with Tilly, and she was like, with Crush, I just want to physically hold it in my hands. And then I broke the news to her when she finished Crush. She turned to me and said, so how long until the 3rd book comes out? And I said, oh, we're not doing a 3rd book. She was so mad. Like, she's genuinely upset. Like, that she's like, junior high is 3 years. It's
right.
7, 8, 9. Like, that doesn't even make sense. I was like, talk to Tilly Walden. It's not my problem.
But you're twins. It makes so much sense that it's a duology.
I love that.
Like 1 and 2. Yeah.
I mean, it threw me for a loop at first because I am from the United States, obviously, and junior high is not 9th grade for my school, so I was like, very confused I was like, did I get sent the wrong book or something? What happened here? So we're going to get started. I would love for you all to just like give the group a very quick overview of the duology, just for people who haven't read it, your own words, anything that you want to talk about very in the overarching, and no spoilers for anybody who has not read it.
They die.
Oh, that is new to me.
There's no 3rd book because they're gone.
They perish.
Yeah,
They're zombies. These are my actual Walking Dead books. These 2. No, it is a fictionalized but also partially true duology of graphic novels about your experience in junior high, and it's about your experience with the challenges of school, the challenges of friendship, the challenges of like coming to terms with being queer, but I think ultimately it's really a series about sisterhood and about like how to be individuals while also like becoming like a unit together. What do you think?
Well done. I think that's
that was perfect.
really good.
We're done. We don't need to do anything.
Yeah. Great. Nailed it.
No, continue.
I think the only thing I would add is that in Crush, we did pull some adult stories about our career and then modernized and fictionalized it for a younger audience. And I think that was partly actually, I will admit this, in part due to like, I think a lot of our fans and our audience have said when we write about your music career, and we're not really that interested in, at least right now, writing about our music career. So Crush definitely has a lot more music content, and it has real, true life stories from our adult life that we inserted, and it was really fun. So I guess you guys were right and we were wrong, so writing about our music career is fun.
What made you not interested about writing about your music? I mean, it's such
That's a good question. I want to know the answer.
Right, it's such a pivotal part. I mean, like obviously, like artists are more than their art, but art is a medium that we use, and you guys are now authors. You're also musicians. So why didn't you want to? I'm curious.
I think it is extremely challenging to talk about music. I recently read this really great interview, actually, in the New Yorker with Justin from Bon Iver, and there's this whole section about how maybe one of the reasons why we're so obsessed with musicians and artists and sort of finding out more about them is because they can't talk about the thing that we love, which is the music that they make. It's really abstract. it's hard. It's hard to explain where songs come from. It's hard to explain what the process of writing a song is. You know, we can sort of like topically say, oh, I went through a breakup, I was writing about XYZ. But I guess what makes it so amazing and such a mystery is how opaque it is. And so to write a book about our music career, I guess it would mean that we would have to focus on, you know, the behind the scenes or the business of it. I suppose there are certain stories that are interesting to sort of pull out, little threads here and there, but, you know, to actually tell the story of our music career, it seems like, I think the struggle is always just like, how do you write about the music? The music is the thing, right? So I don't know, we'll see. One area of our career that has become more interesting to me the further away from it we have, you know, that we are, is those first early years. And I think because they're the furthest away, and also because of the relationship to, you know, the origin of like signing to Neil Young's record label, going on tour with Neil Young. Like I sometimes think about that as like anecdotally something very interesting, and maybe it's just because I'm older now. So like this idea of, you know, Tegan and I as very young people with very little experience or wisdom, you know, dropped in the center of a team of people and a man, Neil Young, who had tremendous amount of wisdom, and we were able to sort of like learn how to be musicians through that experience. I could imagine telling that story now, but up until this point, it's been like, I don't know, just a little too overwhelming. We also still do it, you know? I don't know if I want to write a book about something we're actually in the act of doing, because we need to be retired so that we can really tell the truth, and then not face those consequences.
No, that makes total sense, and it sounds like you actually just came up with like the plot for the third
I know.
book.
Do you think you have to get do you want to write it with us, or do you
Yeah,
want
sure.
to like?
There'll have to be there will have to be the depth that we mentioned.
Yeah.
That's where the depth will come in. But I am curious, like as musicians, what made you want to tell the story as a graphic novel? Like why? We have many musicians who tell about their like past lives in like an album sense or normal prose. Why did you choose this form to do that?
When we agreed to write a memoir about our high school life, the publisher's kids sort of team approached us about using a version of our high school story for a graphic novel and aim it at a younger audience. And we were like, okay, cool. I like graphic novels, and then really didn't think about it for 2 years. And when we sat down to actually write the story, you know, we had to have a lot of conversations about like, how do we fictionalize this? How do we modernize it? You know, the publisher thought it would be a really good idea to bring this into the modern day. And at that point, they broke the news to us that you write graphic novels by creating a script, and we'd never done that before.
You're
so
like, what is that?
Yeah, I like changed my phone number and just waited to see if Sarah would figure out how to do it. And,
Didn't one of you Google how to write a script?
I did. I was like, this must be something you can just Google. Like now I could just have, you know, ChatGPT do it, but
No.
I would never. The joy of writing, my God, I just love it. I can't imagine cheating along the way at all. But and Tilly, our publisher, sent us a bunch of names of graphic novelists, and Sarah and I we picked Tilly. We were like, she's like incredible, amazing, and we just kind of had a premonition that it would be a good collaboration. But again, 2 years went by, and then when we sat down to actually write it, we still had not actually physically met Tilly in person.
No, didn't we do all of junior high without meeting? Yeah.
Post COVID.
It was a pandemic.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and from my perspective, it's like if you get an email that's like, Tegan and Sara want to do 2 graphic novels with you, it's like the queer collaboration of dreams. I'm just like, they plucked this little queer indie cartoonist and these 2 queer pop stars, and they're like, together, smoosh. I'm also a twin, and I was just like, I connected on so many levels to your story and your experience, and it was just like a fast yes for me. But then again, I also kind of forgot about it, because I was like, I said yes, just like doo-doo-doo, I'll see when they send a script. And then a few years later, just this massive script comes in. I printed the whole thing out. My stapler didn't want to staple it because it was so big. And I just like slowly read through it, took notes. And I was already like a little aggressive even when I got your script, where I was like, cut that, nope, and like, nope, add this, like switch that, move that around.
And that was something we loved about
you guys
working
were
with
so
Tilly.
open to it.
Yeah, like the first draft we got from her, it just felt right. Like this, we just understood, and we have great editors as well. But Tilly just had an innate sense of what should be in the book and what shouldn't, and then her contributions, like it felt like she channeling us. Like we truly felt like she understood what wasn't in the script and what needed to be added, and just from the way she drew us or took our comedy, sometimes left our words in and other times would just draw it.
I did a lot of that.
It was
Like,
amazing.
I need to just show this.
And we don't care about being applauded for being good artists. We care about being told we're funny. And so to have somebody understand how integral that is to my confidence, to be told I'm funny, and in this way, where she didn't call us and say, great script, it's so funny, she drew it and made it even funnier, and I was like, this person is telling me that she thinks I'm funny.
Some of the illustrations are amazing.
It's so good, it is so good.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Worked really hard on it.
I am curious about one thing that just came up, is that you mentioned earlier that like you didn't kind of like want to talk about your career until you like graduate or leave, but you also said that you have this like idea for a memoir. So can you talk about how this kind of like came to fruition, this idea of wanting to write this? Were you approached, I think you said, or did you already think about this?
I mean, Tegan really wanted to write, and she really had this idea that the medium we should actually, I guess, prioritize was a podcast. This was probably 2016, 2017. She started to talk about, we should do some kind of audio storytelling. Podcasts were cool. So we actually came to New York and we met with a bunch of the big podcasting companies, and people, they seemed interested like in that way where like, I think we could have probably developed something, but it wasn't, I wouldn't say that there was like we didn't have like exactly the idea, so it was just more like speculative, like maybe this would work, I don't know. And then we went and had a meeting with our book agent, which was weird because we never had made any books or had even said we wanted to make any books, but we had a book agent, and literally in the room, we started having a conversation about maybe we could write some stories. Maybe we could write some stories about our childhood all the way up to high school. And then the more Tegan was sort of like brainstorming, the more that I thought, if we talk about high school, we get to cover all the things that I think a lot of people are curious about. We get to talk about our relationship ultimately as sisters and as twin sisters specifically. We get to talk about our queerness and our identity because we both came out essentially in high school. It was formative in that we didn't just know we were gay, we were actually having relationships with girls at that time. So it was a really seminal experience for us. We also figured out we could play music in high school, meaning our own music. And then we also soft launched our career in grade 12. So to me, it felt like a really easy 3-year package. Like we can tell our story in these 3 years, and it sort of covers everything people have ever really wanted to deep dive into. So it didn't necessarily feel like we were telling our music story or our full life story, but it did feel like we were sort of answering a couple of hot topic questions.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's interesting because high school is it has darkness in it. It's an intense, true memoir about high school. But these books, I feel like you got to take so much truth about your childhood, but kind of the funny truth and the quirky things and
The sweet,
parents
less
being
scary.
silly, and friendships and all those lovely moments, and you got to write it for kids, and writing for kids is fun. It's really
is.
delightful.
And in some ways too, everything you're saying, we've been making this joke on this book tour that my mom likes these books so much. I think she is very proud of us writing high school and making a TV show. She likes these books a lot more than high
She's
school.
really nice in these
She's
books.
really nice in these books. She comes off very good in these books. And I think, to some degree you're right. We were able to sort of discard some of the deeper, darker stuff that we had unearthed for high school. And we were also able to be more aspirational. We were able to sort of look at our identity and our coming out in the early part of our exploration into our relationships with people we had crushes on or people we wanted to be or whatever it is, without all the sort of scary, edgy stuff. It's still there, there's still a tension there,
Definitely.
but it's not as scary as high school.
I think it's actually really inspiring for anyone who wants to write about real experiences, that you don't have to put all of your life and your story in one volume, and that you can sort of slowly parse through who you are and your memories in so many different styles, in so many different tones, in so many different mediums. I just think it's a great model, doing a book like high school, doing these 2 books, and also obviously making music, writing your Substack. You guys produce so much, and all of it has pieces of you.
Tilly isn't just an amazing illustrator and collaborator, she also agreed to come on as our therapist and life coach. So we do these events not so much to sell books, but to help us get through the tough emotional
I'm here.
arcs of being an artist.
That's your second business, like after illustration.
Creative therapy.
Creative.
I'll make a graphic novel
A
of your
lot of
memories
artists
and I'll
do
make
that.
it nicer than it was.
You could draw somebody's trauma and be like, here's how you solve it.
Yep.
So I'm curious, since you talked about it a little bit, like, and without giving too much away, because we will go into each like section of the book a little bit more. How much is fictionalized? How much is autobiographical? And how did you make the decision of what to make fictional and what to make completely true?
I mean, every book is peppered with a lot of truth.
Is the bully
The
like,
bully story,
sort of
yeah,
like
yeah.
the bully?
When Sarah and I started 7th grade, we made friends with a group of girls who were complicated, and I in no way think that they were the only bullies, but they had known each other for a long time, and there was an already existing relationship between them, and they really bullied each other and were tough on one another. It was very much a group of girls that like one day they all hated one, and then you come to school the next day and they'd hate the other one, and very shocking for Sarah and I because we had had a really different experience in elementary school with a group of co-ed kids and everyone was really nice. So it was a weird time. Like we were sort of accepted into the popular girls group. As twins, I feel like people were very fascinated by us. So these girls kind of coveted us. It was like we were like being collected like coins. And sometimes we were discarded and other times we were loved and other times we went along with things we shouldn't have. I mean, it was a complicated time, but I think we generally lived in fear that they didn't like us. And there was one girl from that group we are still friends with to this day. And yeah, she kind of is who I would say Noah is based on.
Okay.
And we did have, I think, the kind of friendship where it was like she had this allegiance to these girls and to us. And we really tried to, pull from that for junior high and create tension. Like the storyline in junior high about my dad getting a girlfriend who liked country music is real. That happened. Our dad only had one girlfriend our whole life, and she was very cool.
She wasn't into country though. That is fiction.
Yes, she was very
Tegan,
into
she's
country.
into AC/DC. That
There
was
we
her
go.
band. It was
Well, I'm not
AC/DC.
gonna call my dad right now to verify, but
Why
I'm sure. Ask if Carol liked country music.
I'm gonna say, what music? What kind of music did Carol listen to?
Okay, so I'd say in junior high there's a lot more that's real. Crush is very fictional, but some of the major storylines from it, like the battle of the bands, making a music video, the first photo shoots, the tension between little Tegan and Sara around behind the scenes content and like getting their first manager and the stress and the conflict between them, that's all pulled from our real life. That's pulled from like 2 weeks ago when we had a marketing call about this book. But I think like a lot of the friendships, for example, for those that haven't read Crush, there's a very aspirational character that we added named Night Fever, who's kind of like a Billie Eilish type character, like alternative and confident and a little bit older than Tegan and Sara, who's very successful in music. And the girls end up getting to use her as a mentor. And that was something really missing from our early career. And so we kind of wrote that character in because just like the way we have our mother being really compassionate in the book and really thoughtful and having just an enormous amount of emotional intelligence, that was not real when this happened. My mom did the best she could, but she was literally like 38 years old when this all started, when, I'm 44, I can barely hold it together, So my mom did the best she could, but she didn't know what it was like to be a musician. She didn't know what our careers were gonna be like. She had really not a ton of advice to offer, so we really put a lot of that into the book. And the Night Fever character, it's the same. We needed someone to step in when we started our career and say, are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you need anything? This will be sometimes very good, sometimes will be very bad, and we just didn't have that. So those are highly fictionalized parts of the story, and I think that's probably Sarah and I working through our trauma.
I think it's a really universal thing though, that even if like kids reading this book aren't like becoming musicians or like on a career path, having someone in your life asking if you're okay is like just sort of maybe something every child needs.
Yeah, or saying you don't have to be exceptional at everything. You don't have to turn your special hobby into a career, and you don't have to put your whole life up on the internet and then feel shame about what you posted later. Like, I think there's some topics and themes in Crush that are very adult, but will resonate with young people because there's just an unbelievable amount of pressure on young people to be on the internet, even though it's not good for you.
I mean, I think about college now, like,
Oh
this
my
is
God.
an example. Like, it's not just enough to be smart anymore. You have to be smart, you have to be doing 15 different activities. The internet makes it, like you said, so much, your life feels like it has to be online. But there are things that, I think, honestly, kids were better when things were a little bit more private.
Yeah.
Like, we could do things without we could do mistakes without them following you around for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely agree with that. What differences would you find in like working between these two books? I mean, we were talking about this earlier about the idea of creating a book. Like, you are a lover of books. You're like an author now, and like that's been an aspiration of yours. So as an author, this is a question you'll get so many times when you work on different books. How has your process changed between the two books?
I mean, Tilly gave a very nice compliment last night. You said that our script for book 2 was much better. I said more confident.
She did say more
The
confident.
first one was a mess. This one is great.
That's very Sarah to hear a compliment and then repeat it back as a criticism. It's not criticism, I'm just saying that I think we were definitely figuring it out. And I think the process of seeing what Tilly chose to include, what she chose to draw instead of, copy word forward. Our editors were incredibly, gave lots of feedback. So I think by the time we were working on book 2, it was like, oh, we can say less, we can be more descriptive, or we can give, like, I feel like we realized, oh my God, we can't put as much dialogue in. Tegan loves to write dialogue. She will just write like pages and pages for a scene. And I was like, okay, that is fun. And we should still leave stuff in for, editorial decisions to be made. But it was like, oh, we can do a little less this time.
One of the reasons there's no panel borders in either book is because I needed every square inch to fit the dialogue. It was like a conscious decision where I read the junior high script and I was like, okay, logistically, we're gonna need to do something here to like fit these words in. And I was like, there is no longer room for panel borders. I am using, the whole book is full bleed. So like literally every square inch is being used. But I actually think that it's such a lovely part of the books because it means that like the art is just sort of like floating around the page, and it's like there's a chaos to the layouts, and I think a way that actually really represents both of your energy. It's exciting, it's bombastic.
Let me tell you what I just heard you say.
Yeah.
What did you hear?
We're chaotic, and our energy has no boundaries.
Do you disagree?
No, I think that, I strive to be disciplined. I have a sort of rigidity in the way that I live. I'm very habitual. But I think creativity should be, I think that's a response to wanting to sort of like be creative, which is like, so you have to be so open.
Well, yeah, this is like, thinking about style, one of the most sort of cartoony book I've ever done. It's the first book where I ever got so much of the drawing in this book was genuinely fun. I was always turning to Emma, my wife, and being like, look at this like ridiculous thing I just drew. It's just like girls like exploding and they're like, ah! I was stuck for so many years in just like sad, quiet, gay stories where like everyone's unhappy and horrible things are happening, which is a brand that I love and I stand by. I love it. But this was like, there was so much joy, and it actually, I feel like it helped me become a better artist. Like tapping into your energy, it showed me that I had a way of drawing that I didn't even realize I could do.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I want to riddle a little bit about that. You want to talk a little bit more about like some of the artistic choices that you did make? I mean, for one, I think the sections are like more prose heavy, and then we have like the red and more blue sections that kind of feel a little bit kind of like internal twin like telepathy conversations in like the dream state. I thought that was brilliant. Like, give you a Peabody for that. That was like,
oh my God,
amazing.
thank you. It was a really, we what did we start calling them? The like interstitials. We did the first draft of junior high, and it was good. It was fun. And it was like a good, nice book. And our editor, Wes, emailed me and was like, I don't know, like I'm not connecting with Tegan and Sara, I'm not feeling the emotional through lines. And he said, why don't we add captions and narration? Side note, narration, my enemy. Overused in comics, I can't stand it. I teach comics, and the overuse of narration in comics is one of my most, I can't stand it. So when Wes was like, what if you add narration? I was like, absolutely not! I will not add a caption. When there's a caption that's like, it's the next day, I'm like, just draw the sun coming up. It's the next day, change the outfit. You don't need to say it, people are smart. Sorry, this is a hill I'll die on. Oh my god, it's so annoying. When people treat readers, especially kids, as if they can't tell what's going on. Anyways, because I was so vehemently against adding captions to create emotional depth, I was like, I'm just gonna have to find another way. So I thought about my own experience as a twin and how like, even through school, even when I wasn't with my brother, I sometimes felt like, not that I could communicate with him, but I was just always like, what's he doing? Like, what's happening? Like, what's happening in his classroom? Because they did the thing where they split the twins apart. We just had this connection, this hunger for knowing what was going on with each other that was so deep. And I was like, what if I just like satisfy that hunger and I just create a space where Tegan and Sara can literally just like mentally visit each other and talk. And I never explain why or how that works, and I just pepper it throughout the book. And I'll never forget the email I got back from Wes, where he emailed back in all caps. He was like, I love it, you're a genius. And it was just such a great creative moment where we solved this problem. Yeah. And then it went through into Crush, and it became such a crucial part of the story where these characters can like have fights and connect with each other and talk intimately without it needing to be in the real world.
We also wrote an all caps email to Wes when we saw it. We were like,
Did
oh
you?
my god, this is
that.
amazing. I think for us, like, you know, you and I, we've talked about this before, but it felt very much like being seen.
Yeah.
You know, because that's certainly a theme in my life is I can talk about everything that's happening around me and that's occurring, but I won't ever just say, I'm sad. You know, and so there was something really poignant and really special to like get back a book that's about us, that was pulled from us, and have you design and write these interstitials that reflect back the actual feeling.
Right, I kind of had to psychoanalyze you guys in the story because it wasn't in the script. So I would ask myself between scenes in the book, like what are they feeling right now? And how do I express that?
And we don't know, and that's why it was helpful.
Right, and I was guessing.
That's
I
how
didn't know
feel.
if it would work.
Genius.
We did it. Nailed it.
I think it was great because I think in many ways, like, it shows a connection between sisters without having to spend, like, copious amounts of pages solving problems. Like, it is a short and very much like the sun rising up instead of narration.
Yeah.
It shows connection in a way that's, like, in some arcs of, like, arguments, that could take pages to resolve, and you do it so well in that little area. I mean, artistically, I think it was, like, an amazing choice.
Thank you. It was also fun because I realized that if I'm not going to explain it, it's not going to be reality. Then, like, I remember when I did it the first one in junior high, and one of you one character was upset, and I was like, what if they just become a puddle? I was like, no one's telling me I can't do that. Like, I can just, like, it led to so many fun things that we could do. Or like, and at one point in Crush, one of my favorite bits is when your mom like shoves into the interstitial space and is like, girls, what are you doing? It's just, I had a great time. These books were so much fun.
It's very Studio Ghibli in like a vibe that like I really like, the puddle especially.
Yeah.
It's like when Calcifer just like turns into like a little like flaming puddle. That's very nerdy. I'm sorry, many of you got it. Okay.
Everyone knows.
So thank
Everyone
God.
gets it.
I am in the right space to say something like that. And then like before we go into like some really fun things, I want to know what was your favorite part, all of you, about working on this series, and what was like a big challenge that you had?
I mean, I always say I am a past addict. Like, I do really love to tell stories and think about the past. We're very lucky. We have incredible friends from childhood still to this day who are our closest friends. And I've been told this by new people I bring into my life when they see us with our old friends. They're like, wow, you guys can literally fill days on end just talking about what happened to you all. And I just feel like my favorite part of working on these books was revisiting that time and getting to play with what happened and how to fictionalize it. It was like a really nice stretch to try to figure out how to use my imagination. And I just felt really inspired to be able to step into a new space. As I was gushing about before all of this, books were so integral to my early life. They still are. I love holding a book in my hands. I think reading is, like, I feel like so lucky that I love to read, and I find reading very easy, and I adopted it so early in my life. It felt like a treat. My mom would bribe us with trips to the library. Like, we loved to read, and every year of our life we were allowed to take out an extra book. And it's like, I just love to read, and so to be a part of getting to make a book has just been, just incredible. It's so wonderful.
Well, I've really enjoyed meeting Tilly, and I really genuinely mean
Same.
that. Tegan and I, obviously, we collaborate with each other, and there are so many people in the music space who we've worked with, like, musically, but it's so rare when you feel like just chemistry with somebody and you get each other, and there's so much emphasis on the product, and I don't mean that in like a negative way, but like, sometimes, even if this book sucked, like, it's just nice to meet you.
Yeah, I agree.
It was just really nice to meet all the people and to have these experiences of getting to meet librarians and teachers, educators, getting to meet parents with their kids, meeting kids who are like, most kids now, we're in a band, and they're like, do you know Taylor Swift? Like, they could give zero fucks about us, you know? And so to have something that a kid goes, wait, I know that we are like older, but they look at us as like we know Tegan. It's not like we just know Taylor Swift. We actually know little Tegan and Sara, and they seem really excited by that idea. So all of that is really beautiful. But even if none of that stuff had happened, like, it's just been so nice to meet you, and you're just like a total delight.
I couldn't agree more. I do think it's the best part of these books is just the fact that I got to become friends with both of you, and I got to like get to know you first weirdly through your childhood by like drawing you many times in like many situations, like drawing your eyes, drawing your hands, drawing your mother, like, so it's very intimate. I really had to tap into who you were, and I got to do that before I actually met you, and then I met you and I was like, oh my god, they're delightful. And it's not that I wasn't expecting it, it's just like with most collaborations, you just sort of hope that it's gonna be good and it will be fine. But it was like actually wonderful being able to work with you. As far as like the only challenge from my end in working on these books was just logistically getting them done. You know, Sarah's a parent, I had a baby in the process of like doing all these books, and I was also doing a trilogy of other books, and it was just like, it was so many books, it was a lot of drawing. And there were like nights where I would just like, I would cry and I'd say to Emma, I'm like, I can't do it, I can't finish these books, it's not possible. And she would be like, yes you can, like, but you can cry and I won't just go for it, like cry, it's okay. But then when they were done, I felt so much pride.
I'm absolutely amazed at what you were doing with basically a newborn baby. I mean, it's truly incredible, and I just want to say for the record, there were no challenges for me. None. Zero. This has been like the easiest project of our career, which is why I think we've now jinxed all the other projects that we're currently working on.
Everything's gonna be hard from now on.
Everything is hard right now, and I'm like, did we jinx ourselves? Like, this has like been, these were so, it gave us the sense that we could do anything. Like, there's like a real hubris of like, well, this is easy, like, bring on the next thing, and then it's been hard. And like, so it's humbling. We're back to humble, because it's like, it is not the norm to just be able to like meet not know a complete stranger and make something that you really are proud of and you love.
It's amazing. I mean, I think it's a testament to what these books mean to us, and like what the feelings are behind making them, which is just like, and at the end of it, we're just like three people who really like each other, and I can't wait to like know you for the rest of my life.
So sweet.
I want to go a little bit deeper, and I know we just did this very sweet, but I'm like, let's get to like the drama. I want to talk a little bit more about like what life was actually like for Tegan and Sara. Like, and this is like, you guys take these amazing pictures too. Like,
Yeah, there's two of Tilly on the left, which I think are just so unbelievably sweet. It's hard, I spent a lot of my adult life not liking looking at photos of myself when I was young, and some of that's just, something everyone feels, like I have really bad acne, I feel like, I had lots of discomfort in my body, and there's like a very specific age, and it starts in grade 8 for a couple years where I'm just kind of miserable and depressed, and you just can see it in the photos. I tried to pull ones that aren't depressing looking, but I also really like looking at them now because you can see so much of who we are going to become. Like in this selection of photos, like the one on Santa's knee, Sara and I are both wearing like political shirts. Like Sarah's wearing a Take Back the Night shirt, which, it kind of delights me to know that even at that age, we were already angry, disenfranchised.
You knew the world was gonna go to shit.
Yeah, you know, and that's our mom's influence. You know, she worked at a sexual assault center and
Oh.
was a feminist, and you know, all of our parents were very political and made us, you know, think about the world. But now when I look at the photos, I see so much of that. But I find the photos so funny because there's also part of it that's like we literally have not changed. You know, like some people really change, but then you've got those people in your life that have had the same haircut their whole lives. We haven't, but there's just something.
Like the inner haircut.
The inner haircut is the same. I just like the looks on our faces, the way we hold ourselves, the way we emulate like it's just looking through the photos has been such a funny thing because I'm like, God, like especially me. Like when you watch video footage of me at this age, I'm quite literally the same person. I think I've come so far and I have not made any progress. I am just bubbly. I mean, on the way over here, I said it. I'm incapable of saying no. I just am so I'm eager. I'm like a Labrador. Like I'm not an over-eager puppy, and I see that in these photos as well. And I asked Tilly this last night if you thought that we would have been friends.
I think we would have.
And you think we would have been, and I said that I thought you would have been terrified of us because we were so bad. Like we were like,
but then I said I would have loved that.
Yeah.
I would have loved my own terror, and I would have attached myself to you like a jellyfish.
and we would have accepted you as one of our own. Yeah.
God, I wish we could. We'll have to do another book, and I'll have to write myself in. This like little sad ice skater shows up.
What were you like in 8th grade?
I was a horrible person.
You were what?
What?
Tell us more.
I was a bully.
Yeah.
I was, excuse my language, a bitch.
Yeah.
I was a mean girl. You wouldn't have liked me.
Yeah.
I'm just like perfect now.
Yeah.
But like back then, no, I was.
So what were you? You're protecting yourself.
Yeah, I was out. I was like the only out kid in my high school and my middle school. I came out very early. I remember watching a TV show. I watched like Gundam back in the day, which is an anime TV show, and I remember like talking. Again, I forget where I am. Talking with like my other like friends who were boys, and they were like, "I like the like massive Gundams," and I was like, "I like when the guy's in his boxers," and they were like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm gay." And it was just like it was a big thing of protecting myself. I went to school with my mom; she was a teacher there, and so like that was a big thing. And I was also like I graduated valedictorian in my school. I went to like a 7th through 12th grade, and so there was a big part of protecting myself. But yeah, we would probably not have been friends. We might have been friends like in 12th grade when I became more normal.
I was gonna say what changed you?
I think what changed me was realizing that like being the mean girl doesn't really fly after like 10th grade. Like it's not cute anymore. And it was like a defense mechanism. I was like, oh, I don't actually need this defense mechanism to be somebody who's like worthy of love and attention and being somebody. Ugh, emotions. So I didn't need that. I was like, oh, if you want to be like actually successful in this world, like you have to like change your mindset. And like looking back, like I was just like yelling at people. There was a lot of lashing out, and yeah, I've changed significantly.
Did you write as a young person? Like,
I
you
did.
start? Yeah.
I wrote a lot of fan fiction when I was a child on fanfiction.net. Never find the account. And it was really, really bad. And yeah, I started writing like little quizzes for my like classmates, and they would like take the quizzes, and then based on the answers, I would write stories about them.
Wow.
So yeah, I always knew I was gonna be a writer.
Wow. That's so cool.
Thank you. Let's talk a little bit more about your experiences back then. Like,
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the things that we have been really enjoying talking about is some of the real stuff that happened and how we fictionalized it and added it to the story. I asked Tilly if we could get press of her when she was young, because she got started young too, and she refused to send me anything. But
I
then,
don't save any of it.
yeah, like which I think is healthy and normal.
Yeah.
This is like my stepdad scanned all these for us, but yeah, I think like it's interesting. Like all of us got started young and found our craft early, and it's interesting emotionally what that does to you, because so much of your identity is wrapped up in your job. Like I have a hard time figuring out who I was before I was Tegan from Tegan and Sara. Like I work on that a lot, and it was fun to kind of fictionalize what happened to us in real life for these books, because it allowed us to play with that idea a little bit. Like, well, who would we have been if we had lost the competition we won in high school that launched our career? Would we still be musicians, or would I become a teacher or a writer? Like, do you guys think about that? Like, do you think there was a pivotal moment that if it had gone a little differently, you wouldn't have ended up here?
Definitely. What is it?
I think it's a little sad.
Uh-oh.
So I came from the world of competitive figure skating. I was used to like a lot of pressure, and I found comics, and comics were kind of like my safe space. They were so precious to me. I loved them. I never thought about having a career. I just wanted to draw them. It just made me so happy. And by drawing them and putting it on Twitter, I met a guy named Ricky in England who ended up publishing one of my comics. Because you just say yes when a guy named Ricky emails you. You just say yes. It's okay if he can't give you any money. You'll make money later. And I did. But I made this book with him, and he was like, why don't you come over to London and like promote this little tiny book? And I was like, okay. And I instantly felt like that pressure that I remember feeling as a figure skater. And I was 18, and my dad went to London with me for this book event. And right before the book event, I started crying, and I was like, I don't want to go in there. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't know what this is, this whole like being a cartoonist, but I was like, this isn't me. And my dad was like, you have to. Like, we flew all the way here, they published your book, you have to go in.
Wow.
And it took me so many years to unpack that, like, that start set me on like a really bad way for a while of feeling like I had to do this. And then I eventually like took a break from comics for a while. I went to EMT school. I worked as an EMT. It was lovely. It was actually really hard, but it was great. It was what I needed. I was like, I need another skill. I want to do something else.
That's a great skill for after AGI happens.
I'm here.
You know, like
I can help.
artificial intelligence becomes general intelligence. I'm scared. EMT is a great job. I'm just putting it out there.
It is, but I think like my energy, I actually think the job that would have really suited me is like school principal.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like I want to be like, I want a little whistle, and I want to like direct children, and I want to nurture them, and I want to tell them what to do. And I would be fantastic at it.
Yeah, you
But
would.
somehow I came back to comics even after all of that, and now I have a much healthier relationship with it. But I think, yeah, in general, like, I'm surprised that this is what I do.
One of the things that I really remember about the age, like junior high, like where you're like in that like in between place where people are always asking you like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like,
Yeah.
what do you want to do with the rest of your life?
Would you
know?
say musician?
No. In junior high, I would say lawyer.
Oh.
And then a relative. I used to say I wanted to be a lawyer, and I really wanted to go to Harvard. And then one of my relatives from the United States came to visit, and I heard her say to my mom, "You really should lower Sarah's expectations." Like she was like, "Sarah is not going to make it into Harvard. Like you should just really stop that." And it's true.
But I do think that that's
There was nothing I can tell you right now. While I may seem exceptional to all of you because of what's on our Wikipedia page, I'm actually quite average. And I was an average student, and there was absolutely no world in which I was about to go to Harvard. Like, there just wasn't. Maybe I could go to Harvard now, but I don't even know if that's true, actually. But yeah, I remember this, like, thing that you would just, like, you know, like kids, you just spit out, like, what are you going to be for Halloween? What are you going to be after high school? What are you going to be for the rest of
Constantly
your
needing
life?
to define yourself.
Yeah, and I remember saying those things, but I could not imagine it. Like, I
Yeah.
really could not imagine it. And I always say, like, I don't know if that was because I just hadn't yet discovered my true fate and true calling, or if it was because I didn't really want to be a lawyer, or because I actually just didn't know a lawyer who went to Harvard except for, like, people on TV. So I was like, I don't
But did you want to be a TV lawyer?
I don't know. I think I wanted to be, like, this has come up a lot during this, like, book tour, but, like, I really liked that movie, The Client, with Susan Sarandon. She was a lawyer, and then I really liked that A Few Good Men movie. I really liked that. So I think I just, like, liked Demi Moore and Susan Sarandon. I thought they were, like, sexy lawyers, and I wanted to hang out with sexy lawyers, and I was like, put me in law school, please. But yeah, I just remember this feeling. I think what makes junior high more complicated, at least for me, more than high school, in junior high, I really did feel suspended in this place that is not childhood, but is not the moment where you're ready to think that you're an adult. Like in high school, I was like ready to start thinking about being an adult.
Yeah.
And in elementary school, I was a little tiny baby, you know? And then in junior high, you're like, I don't feel like either of these things. And it was such a discombobulating time, which I think is like a little bit of why people get a little mean and they get a little, like, they lash out, they're changing their personalities, their social circles, their friends, they're really trying on a lot of stuff because you're really trying to like stabilize yourself and find your people, or your thing, or your identity, or whatever. I hated junior high for that, I really did.
I wanted to be a pediatrician that focused on pediatric oncology. That was my goal.
Oh my God.
That was my goal. I got a degree in public health instead of right, but yeah, that was my goal. But no, I think I really like identified what you said about who you are, like outside of this. Like I have realized that I knew I wanted to be an author very, very early, along with having too much goals of being a pediatric surgeon. And I don't really know who I am outside of my books. And it's been like a big...
You mean right now?
Yeah, it's been like, I started going to writing when I was young. I published like 6 books in the past 3 years. Like writing has been such a big part of my life that I'm really struggling to figure out. We always tell writers, like, you need to have like a hobby. And I'm like, every hobby of mine turns into a job. It turns into and I don't like know what a hobby is. And it's something that I'm like, big existential dread. Because I'm like, how do I exist outside of the rest of this? Not to bring down the mood, but like this is I really identify with that.
Do you have like a personal relationship or a pet?
I do. I have a boyfriend of 8 years, and I have.
How does he feel when you say like this? Does he have a sort of like a position?
Oh yeah, his position is you need to figure out how to relax before you kill yourself at the age of 35. Yeah. And I have a golden retriever. Her name is Artemis. She's the love of my life.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I should have sent a picture of her, but she's crazy, but she's very, very sweet.
I think I will say that I resonate with everything you all just shared, and I do think that, you know, this is just a human thing. You go through different ages developmentally, and sometimes you find your passion really early and then it burns out, and sometimes you do your passion your whole life, and identity is huge, and individuation is huge, and individuating yourself from the art that you make and from your career is healthy and normal, and I feel this all the time. I don't mean it to be like it's not a negative thing, but it is an honest thing about me, is that I truly feel like my value as a person goes down if I'm not in the collaboration with Sara. And I've seen it firsthand because I've tried to do things on my own and have found like I'm often turned down when I offer my services solo. And I think that's fine. I can push through that. Like, you know, but it's so much of my life has been in collaboration with Sara. It's actually probably why I've enjoyed this collaboration so much. When we broaden it beyond Sara and I, it feels very fresh and new, and like I have to use different skills. But I also don't have a hobby. I also don't have a driver's license, so I'm working on that right now, and I feel like
that's important.
Yeah. Okay, so I was gonna say that one of the interesting things is that I also share that feeling with Tegan. Like one of my central worries or something I would see as a deficit is that maybe I'm not good on my own. Like I think I'm a fine musician, but is there something sort of magical about what we do together that allows my music to sort of feel more elevated? But one thing I will say, and I haven't figured this out as an artist, but becoming a parent and getting my driver's license at 41, these were the first things I did as like just me. Like I wasn't going through the process at the same time as Tegan, and these were like huge things that I was like, this is happening to me, and I have to figure out how to meet this, you know, challenge and this new thing. And while it hasn't allowed me to sort of like address or heal the part of me that worries that as an artist I'm not good enough if I'm not with Tegan, it has given me a sense of peace and self-confidence that I did not have before, because I'm like, oh, I can do this. Like I can keep a child
just have a kid.
I was just about to say, maybe it's not a child, but if you had asked me, or if you got the notes from my therapist in 2018, to list out things that I was afraid of doing, those were 2 of the things on that list. There were other things too, and I think that as we get older,
I've got so much bigger problems. They're putting things like driver's license, have child, and I'm literally like, get a massage. Can't do it.
Come on.
I can't. I feel existential dread even imagining it.
Well, so this is the thing I was just to summarize. I do think, like, whether it's hobby or art or it's all of these things, like, and I'm gonna sound like a TikTok meme or something, but it has been incredibly empowering for me to put down on paper what scares me, and I don't mean scares me like going down into a basement at night in the dark. I mean, what am I avoiding? You know, what am I avoiding? Like I I've always said I want to go back to school. Like I finished high school and I was always like, big mistake, I should have gone to post-secondary education. I am very afraid to apply and go to school, but I would like to. Like, even if it's just to try, because I feel really scared too. I feel very accomplished.
Wait, we should talk about this. I want to do this too. I didn't go to college.
I want to go to college. Like, I really do want to go to college.
We can be friends as adults. We can go to college, the three of us.
together. You guys, that's codependent. No, don't do it together. I don't know. I guess if I was like,
I'm so daunted.
maybe like, I think I maybe like some kind of like writing or English or whatever, and
We're
then
going to college.
no, we're not going to. The truth is that I think actually one of the things that like I would like to do is something that I know that I can't use in a practical way once it's done, because
That's okay.
because I'm also trying not to like use this experience as a way to have a job. Like, feel like I have a job.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, should I go do something that I'm like very interested in but really detached from? Like I thought about doing like a theology degree or something, like just go and see if I can like challenge myself in that space. But these were things that I literally wrote down and was like, I am afraid to have a child, become a parent, like drive a car, you know, whatever it is. And so I was like, when I was like in the first 6 months of having Sid, and I was like, oh my God, this is like, I'm doing it. I love this. I'm challenged by this in a positive way. And then I got my driver's license and I was like, all right, shit, like let's open up that I'm scared to do this list and see if there's like something else in here. And that has like given me self-confidence in a way that is very detached from my career and my sort of like outward personality and persona, and it's actually been very healing.
I've thought about this a lot, about like how your art defines you and how you build a life outside of that art. And I've been like very aggressive in trying to find ways to not feel defined by my books. And the hack that has worked for me is you have to find at least one other thing in your life that you are, because when you publish books and you find a modicum of success, part of your art defining you is that success also defining you.
Yeah.
They're like inextricably linked.
Yeah.
Is that like you are successful at this thing that you did and you're in a position that people envy, and like it's all very complex, and then throw the internet in there and it's a bad smoothie, sometimes a great smoothie. But I've had to find things that I'm an absolute beginner at and that I'm never going to be good at. So like, I take piano lessons, guess what? Years in, still really bad at piano. I can barely play for Elise, but you know what? I'm trying. I take all of those vaguely embarrassing adult education classes and learn little skills with old people. I learned to crochet, I learned to knit. I do speed skating. I was a figure skater. I am not a speed skater. And these tiny little children lap me, and I skate so slowly, and my legs hurt, and it's exhausting, and I'm doing it this Sunday. I'm gonna show up again. The kids are like, oh my God, she's bad. But it heals something. It scratches that itch, because I'm accomplished at comics, and that accomplishment is something I'm super proud of. But to like be a fully formed person, I have to remember how it feels to like try and not make it into something, you know? So go check your local listings at the, you know,
I just
centers
think
around you.
things. But yeah, that's like a good piece of advice.
I like it. I think that'll be my goal in 2025. I'll keep you posted.
Come join me, be bad at things with me.
I like the same
Come do stuff that small children are really good at and you're really bad at.
We have about 10 minutes left, so I do want to make sure that we talk about some like really cool things. And you mentioned this about doing things separate and things that are like separate things. And I think that kind of is reflected a lot in Crush, about speaking about the first photo shoot and especially about the music video, and also about like the Battle of the Bands, like your differencing of opinions. Like I really saw like, and I'm sure it was like maybe a little exaggerated in the book, maybe not, but like a very big fork in the road in how you two viewed some things and wanted to go in the directions. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think as twins, we're still, like, this kind of ties into what we were just talking about. I think, like, individuating ourselves from each other is really big, but I don't think that's just because we're twins. I think all people go through that, especially when you are young. You really want to stand out from your friends or from your siblings, or, you know, what your parents want for you. And I think for Sarah and I, this is the divide between, or the conflict that happens between Tegan and Sara in these books is probably more extreme than what was actually happening, but we really leaned into how different Tegan and Sara saw certain experiences and allowed for that conflict to exist. It was okay for Tegan to want her career more than Sara to want it, and like for both of them to be reassured about that felt really important. And again, I think these were like ways in which we were sort of healing real life experiences that we'd had. But I think combined with reimagining what happened, so the Battle of the Bands that really did make our band kind of get our first shot. In reality, we won, and in the book, we lose. And the opportunity to walk through how that feels and what Tegan and Sara experienced because of that felt really healing. And I think, like, the first crush I ever had did not end in rejection, it ended in a really amazing relationship. So it was really fun to write Tegan falling in love with DJ Cucumber, and then DJ Cucumber's like older and cool and hot and already has a girlfriend, and to have little Tegan experience heartbreak, like, that was important. I didn't experience heartbreak till I turned 20, and that made that heartbreak absolutely crushing. And so I feel like it was, it was an opportunity to sort of work through how different our experiences were. Whereas with Sara, like, you wrote Roshini and Sara, like, to sort of follow along with a crush you actually had, like your first serious relationship with a girl, and got to put in how positive of an experience that was and how integral that was to your development, not just as a person, but as a queer person, to have such a positive first queer experience. So, I think we both approached the books with different mindsets at times, which felt like really important. Like, some things about my story needed to be fictionalized and other parts of it needed to be left on like how it was, and I think that felt like really good for us. I think I just described writing.
Yeah. But that's like, the journey is what's important, and what we choose to make fictional, what we not, I think, is what makes the story special. Like, I'm sure there's many of thousands of things you could have picked differently, but you chose the one that made the story what it was.
Yeah, well, it's like, I didn't want to write, like, especially when it came to the romantic parts, I could not write my own experience, like, for kids, Like, I felt like I needed to go even younger and just think about, like, when I was really little and just, like, mesmerized by my mom's friends, and then, like, funnel that into DJ Cucumber,
I also think, we spend a lot of our life, specifically with the work that we do with our foundation that focuses efforts on the LGBTQ+ community, talking about representation. And there's this kind of like fine line between you want to see representation that is accurate and hopefully it covers a spectrum of experience so that people see themselves represented. But then on the other hand, we have the data to show that in books and TV and like film, that the over-representation is negative, tragic in some cases. And so I also felt like we told a really honest queer story in our memoir. It is truly our experience, but in this situation, I also felt a kind of like responsibility to write something more aspirational than our own experience, because I don't want every kid, however they identify, I don't want them to see all LGBTQ+ stories as being like overly tragic or overly like amazing. Like, I just want them to be boring and mundane, like everybody knows relationships are, whether they're gay or they're straight. And so, like, in this case, the relationship that I have with my best friend is representative of the relationship I had in real life. The difference is that we didn't have to hide it. And so, it was so interesting to think about at 14 or 15 years old, what would it have felt like to be able to just be like, I am dating. But my mom, I remember her saying, are you having a relationship with Krista? That was my best friend. And I was like, no. And then it's like interesting to just think about like, well, what would it have felt like if I had been able to say, yes, I am. And then my mom could be like, well, that's amazing. And then that would be it, And maybe there would have been like limitations on the fact that we wouldn't maybe have been allowed to have sleepovers, or, maybe when Krista told me that she was going to Montreal on an exchange and then started dating this guy, Yannick, and then got a tattoo and started smoking cigarettes, instead of crying in my room by myself, I would have been able to be like, Mom, Krista went to Montreal, started smoking cigarettes and dating this guy, Yannick, and I wouldn't have had to deal with that alone, Sorry, that's not related to this.
All of it all makes the tapestry. So we have a few minutes left, and any last thoughts that you want to talk about? Anything we didn't talk about you want to make sure you mention? I want to also make sure, like, if we can give a little bit of time to plug the foundation a little bit more, but anything last minute.
I asked this question last night, and I want to put Tilly on the spot again because I thought about this so much. I just thought it was so fascinating, and this page in particular. But Last week I said like my wife hadn't read the book or Crush yet, and she read it, and she at the end she said, "How does Tilly draw the books?" And I was like, I don't know. I never asked.
Just appear in your inbox as a PDF.
Yeah. So I asked the question last night, and the answer was so amazing, and I just would love to put you on the spot.
It's
and
wild. It seems so mundane to me.
I know, but it was so magnificent how you explained it, and so like if you feel up for it, I just feel like it's so neat how you drew this book, because it's also different than how you draw a lot of your other books.
It's true. I'm typically someone who inks. I ink traditionally, and I do all my books in black and white, and then I color it. But for junior high and for Crush, I did the rough drafts on an iPad and Procreate very quickly, so I could like do it on the move and easily move things around. And then I printed all of those pages out, and I taped them onto gigantic, like this big sheets of watercolor paper because it's toothy. And I stuck it on a light pad, which is on a sort of tilted desk, and the way I made the drawing board tilted is I stuck a rug pad underneath it, and then I duct taped it down. So really high class stuff here. And then using the light pad, I could see the rough drawings, and I just used my pencils, these little gray pencils, and I slowly drew over all the lines, filled in all the space, and I would usually halfway through a page, I drew the book in spreads, so every page that is next to each other, that's how it is on the original art. So I could see the whole spread. This page took forever because I had to literally sit there with a pencil and color around all of these eyes. And I saved every pencil I used on the book, and I now have like 30 pencil nubbins in a little box that are my graveyard of pencils that I used to create Junior High and Crush. And then I colored it really quickly on an iPad. And the pages were so big, I wasn't able to scan them at home, and I live really rurally. So I had to get a student that would like come to my house in a blizzard, and I would like pass off the pages, and the student would be like, "Wish me luck!" And they would like drive to the cartoon school like 30 minutes away and scan them. That's why at the back of the book you'll see it's dedicated to someone named Clover. Clover is the student who scanned all of these pages in horrific weather and got it done. And then like I had this little baby, and I was like not ready to like get in a car and leave the house. And again, Clover showed up and like did it for both of these books. But it was amazing. It was so fun to like, there's something very like reminiscent of childhood to like pick up a pencil and scribble on a piece of paper and have that be the book.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. I'll send you one of the nubbins.
I would love that, and I will just say that I said this to both of these amazing authors and artists backstage. It's an honor to be up here with you guys, and I feel like we've just hit the jackpot when it comes to collaboration. And
I agree.
These book events have been amazing, and I just hope all of you keep buying books. It's like the amount of work and effort and energy and love that goes into making a book. It's profound, and now we've had the experience 3 times. So thank you in advance for supporting books.
Thank you for coming.
See you at the signing. Thanks, everybody.
Yes, you told me that.
Tilly, Tilly, come on.